working for an asset owner, my first question to you is really, what are the major challenges that asset owners are facing as a consequence of the crisis?
Well, I guess there are a number of challenges that we've faced. Some of the more fundamental ones that we sometimes forget as investment managers, like paying the pensions that we're there as a fund to do. Taking a bit of work to make sure that there aren't any blockages in the system that are going to prevent that, and just organising decision-making meetings. Getting good quality sort of debate and engagement is a real challenge. So that's on sort of the day-to-day business as usual kind of stuff. But the real challenges in terms of investment as well. We as a fund, like many others, have a 31st of March year end, and getting good valuations on the 31st, for the 31st of March for unlisted assets is challenging. There's a lot of volatility, so just getting a good steer as to where your assets are is quite difficult on a day-to-day basis, and assessing whether your current investment strategy is the right one is not very easy in very sort of foggy waters that we're sailing through right now. So those sorts of challenges there, liquidity and doing any kind of trading right now is much more difficult, much more expensive, and something for me only to be done when there's a really good reason to do that. Yeah. And so we don't anticipate making any changes in the immediate future to our portfolio until we get a clearer idea as to where valuations settle down. I guess one of the areas that many institutional asset owners will be concerned about is a sort of drop in income. Now, that doesn't affect us because we're a relatively immature fund. We have more contributions coming in than we're paying out in benefits. But, there are a number of asset owners that rely on income or selling down assets in order to make sure benefits and other liabilities are covered. And with the fall in sort of rental payments and dividends being, cut left, right and centre, I think that's going to be a concern for a number of asset owners.
And you referenced there sort of getting valuations on sort of unlisted assets. One of the advantages of being a sort of long-term asset owner is that you're able to take a long-term view and also maybe get into things that are less liquid. Do you think that the crisis might change people's views on that at all?
Yeah, look, I think private markets are kind of here, to stay, and for a number of benefits they provide, particularly liquidity premium. When yields and other sources of return, have been pretty thin on the ground, getting a premium for a lack of liquidity when you don't need that liquidity, it is a very attractive source of returns. I think what you might find is that people have a really deep look at what their need for liquidity is and how much can actually be locked up in unlisted assets. Because, you are talking with many of these funds, realistically, without, large entry and exit costs, you're looking at being locked in and on a project for a decade or longer or on many private market assets.
And I suppose this crisis is a little bit different from the financial crisis in that it may change the way that governments and societies work together and the way that economies are directed. So I suppose in the sense that the financial crisis you could see how it was going to evolve and how it was likely maybe to unwind. And perhaps it didn't affect people's long-term views so much. Do you think this will have more of an impact on people's long-term thinking about investment environments? And I guess in particular with regard to sort of considerations of sustainability and resilience?
Well, I think it reinforces a lot of that movement, sustainability. I think we've all realised, how vulnerable we are, and we need to think about ways in which we can maintain that. And there have been a number of positives, if you can think of it, that have come about from the reduction in activity, like air quality, like carbon emissions. Now, we will go back, but I think that on the back of, the climate let's call it a climate enlightening that we seem to have gone through over the last couple of years. On the back of that, along with pandemics as well, I think there will be a larger focus. And I think one of the things that seems to be sort of becoming clearer is that those companies that work sustainably do seem to have a better chance of coming out the other end and in good shape.